Welcome back. This is a 350 Ford Demolition Derby application. The cool thing about this one though is I built this myself probably 5 or 6 years ago. So it's been out there running, doing battle for that many seasons. And so this is the first time I get to take it apart and actually see, see if we can learn anything. See if there's anything that maybe I need to change, maybe increase the clearance, decrease the clearance. We're definitely upgrading the camshaft this go around. It had a flat tappet cam when I built it, and it's getting a solid roller this go around. Tonight I'm going to tear this down, probably do a leak down check on it, but we're going to try to turn this one around pretty quick. The main reason this engine came back in is because it ran over something on the track and got a hole in the oil pan, and a hole punctured, not a hole from a blow up. So we're hoping he didn't run it out of oil and very long. We're not really sure. Alright, so we're about 10 minutes into this thing, and we see this rocker arm right here is loosey-goosey. Probably got a flat lobe on the cam, but we have mega bent push rod. So that does not happen by accident. So we'll have to figure out, we'll have to continue looking for what might have caused that deal. Okay, this will be the first rollover since the Derby, so let's just see how crunchy it is. It's not locked up. Get out there. We do have one bent exhaust valve, and it's right next to the bent push rod and the intake valve, so that's interesting. I was going to do a leak down check, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and tear it all the way around, all the way down, because it has to come apart anyway, and I'm going to put rings, bearings, and everything in it. Whew. It's way worse than we thought. Well, customer stated had a little water in the oil, so he thought maybe the head gasket was leaking. We were hopeful because I didn't hear the car run after the Derby. I'm not really sure. They didn't say it's made any noises or anything like that, but so far we had bent valve, exhaust valve, bent push rod on the same cylinder. We got the head off, and we have a missing cylinder wall. So that cylinder wall left the chat, and that piston is broken and hanging out in there. So this quick build just turned into a long one. I don't have a block sitting here ready, so that really stinks. So I'm going to take my defeated self and go ahead and take this thing all the way apart because it's got to be done. See what else is tore up or salvageable. And then we'll call it a night. Maybe we can figure out why it happened. Pretty confident it's going to show lack of oil, unfortunately. Still rotates good. Oh, there, I got it to. There's the wrist pin, the connecting rod. There it is again, saying peekaboo. So. I hate to say this, but at this point, I really only took the rods and pistons out just for you guys to see it. There's not much point in going any further because the hole in the cylinder wall in that cylinder is so bad that it's not worth fixing. The crankshaft is going to need turned, and you can buy a brand new one that's not been through the damage that this one's been and the abuse that this one's been for probably $50 more than getting one turned. So I just thought it'd be a nice little show and tell here of every bearing in it is just wiped. But I have hope in this engine because you can still see, like this was one of the worst ones, you can still see the coated skirt. This is a basic, cheap as can be, hyper-eutectic piston. And then, so these are your forward cylinders. It's 1, 2, 3, see we're missing a piston. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You get back here to 7 and 8, where you still had some oil slinging around. Look at the skirt. It's not even scratched. The coating is still on there. That's a win. Even though, like, I mean, I'm upset about this engine, but every loss is still a learning point. You still have to think about that. You still have to take it and find something you can learn from this. And one thing we learned is that every Derby engine needs to have a plated oil pan, whether the rules allow it or not, because I didn't build this one with a plated oil pan, and here we are. It got a hole in the oil pan while in a Derby. These guys don't run oil pressure gauges or water temperature gauges or anything like that, so it lost oil pressure. They continue to run. The engine finished the Derby. That's what's insane. You know what? We're going to take it apart further because we need to check out those cam bearings, because I bet they're trashed. Look at that rear main. Dude, rear main. That's awesome. The guy can't even be mad about that. We were still oiling the mains. Just didn't have enough pressure to get to the rods. So far, let's see what this guy looks like. Yeah. That's number 2. So now we're going to show damage. Yeah. I mean, you can't ask for a better bearing than that. Gosh dang. Not after what this engine went through. And it still has the press to the bearing. Man. Yeah. These bearings look phenomenal. You just heard me snap every one of those main bearings out exactly how they're supposed to snap out, like they're brand new. You can see in here that it's dark in this groove. That means that oil was smoking hot, and it was just not discoloring the bearing. But you can see even where the oil was coming through the oil hole, it's black there. That means it was really, really cooked oil. But the bearing itself, it's got a little bit of a smear there, which that's the front upper. That's honestly probably power steering belt was too tight. Honestly, lifting the crank up, that happens. But this bearing, compared to the way the rest of the rod bearings look, well, I'll just grab one. Side by side. And it really doesn't matter which one I grab because they all look the same. None of the rod bearings spun, but they all look like that. There just was not enough oil pressure to get there. Now they almost spun, but you can tell on the back, you can still read the label. They were still in place where they were supposed to be. They were starting to lift, but they did not spin. But that's the rod bearing, that's the main bearing, and the cam bearing looks pretty close to this also. I'm not knocking them out because that is a giant waste of time. But this is pretty stinking cool. Even the rod, you can see the crosshatch still in the rod that actually broke, which tells me it was getting heated up here and tight here, and it wasn't slinging oil up to the top. So this probably got seized and broke the piston, which caused the rest of this, and that rod's bent just a little bit. But you can see how the rod looks just dry, burned, which means this thing was really stinking hot. And that could have been part of it. It could have been so hot up here that it seized on its own anyway, but you can tell by the way this oil is just cooked on here that it was really, really hot. but it wasn't. We dodged a bullet and did not spin a bearing, but it was right there. I mean, the engine's still toast, but you got to still look at it for the bright side. Look at that! Look at that! Ha! That thing's been beating around the engine like that with no piston on it, and you can still slide it back and forth. So it probably just that still moves. So that's pretty awesome. That's a win! Got him! There's our exploded piston. Now, these cracks I caused trying to drive it out, but you can look in here. There's not a ton of heat in here where the wrist pin went, and I can't tell if there's scratching or not because it's so beat up. So it's really hard to tell what happened here, what gave out first. I could probably dig out the pieces of the skirt out of the oil pan. Well, there's one piece. You can still see the coating on the skirt. That's the worst part about the hyper-eutectic pistons. They will take a beating. You can get them hot, you can rev them up, you can do all kinds of stuff with these pistons, and they will survive even as cheap as they are. But if you make contact with them one time, and that could have been it. It might have hung the valve. He may have over-revved the thing while it was all doing all this screaming hot stuff, and it could have been the valve that caused all this to happen. Because it does have a bent valve. As you could look. Yeah, I would say after the fact. There's marks in here. I would say that's after the fact because it's pretty clean. And then this one's off to the side where the exhaust would have hit it. So, smashed here. One last look. Customer states, engine oil contains water. That's where your antifreeze goes. But this is where your piston goes. Antifreeze, piston. Antifreeze, piston. So that is no good, sir. That's a wrap. We're going to have to figure out how to fix this thing. Not really. It needs a new block and a new crank, new rods, new pistons, basically a new short block. And I ordered him a cam because we were going to do a cam upgrade. So tune in next time when we try to take something apart that we can still fix.